But I just am curious, where do you live, and how did you two meet?
This could take the entire time.
Okay.
No, I'll give you just a snippet. I'm in North Dakota, Fargo, North Dakota. Gary.
And I'm in Providence, Rhode Island.
And we met in the adrenal fatigue recovery group initially. That's group, I don't know how long Gary had been in there, but I joined it.
I think you signed me up.
In the regular adrenal fatigue recovery? No, I don't.
No?
Because that's where I met you.
Oh, well, I don't know. We don't know a lot of things.
Again, I had severe brain fog then, but that's my recollection of our meeting.
Awesome.
And then he pretty much kind of took me under his wing and helped teach me and helped get me through all of the hard crap that I was going through. And he was there for me every day and listened to me repeat myself thousands of times, as I have heard since.
Isn't it crazy how sometimes we just have to battle something more than once, and we just, it's interesting, right? How we find ourselves there. Once again, you go, gosh, didn't I do my work here? I always say there's something that we didn't learn the first time.
And we get to repeat it over and over until we do get to learn it. And
we do.
And
we do.
Angie was in quite a state at that time, so the one thing that I was gifted was patience.
Yes, he was. Oh my God. Thank God. This man, seriously, he was a freaking saint, because I don't know that most people could have handled it. I mean, I don't know. There's someone that we have dealt with as well and together, and it's kind of, I've come to him and I'm like, Gary, I don't know what else to say. And he's like, well, do you know that you kind of basically did that to me? And I'm like, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a cool story that you guys are still together and doing. Now you're helping others.
Yeah, we actually
together.
Angie had been bedridden for a while and on sleeping pills and stuff, so it took a lot to get her up and running. So she had adrenal crash and all kinds of issues. So what was that, a month ago, 2 months ago? She actually flew to New York and we met in Maryland for the first time.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So you've all been friends for how long?
Year and a half, 2 years?
How cool is that?
It's been longer than that. Time flies when you're having fun.
Over 2 years, yeah. Yeah, because we then formed, a friend of mine that was in the adrenal fatigue recovery group, then her and I and some others broke off and created adrenal fatigue the natural approach adrenal fatigue, the natural approach group. And then Gary and I started and formed LivefoodDtox together. So, yeah, and we've had the adrenal fatigue, the natural approach group for over a year now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been at least 2 years, if not longer.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Well, I'm going to look forward to, before we get off the phone, let me know where I can find out more about your story, because I love that. Angie, I would have never guessed by looking at you that you were taking sleeping pills and had a hard time getting up. I love that you've overcome.
It was ugly.
Yeah.
It was ugly. But yeah, we'll get my story at some point.
I know. I'm trying. When I first met Angie, I said, I think it's time you did a video. She was like, no, I can't do it. And so I said, look, just turn your phone on, say something. If you don't like it, delete it. Nobody will ever see it. And the next thing I knew,
I'm doing videos.
Are you doing videos?
I'm doing videos.
Yeah, she's been doing live stuff. She's been awesome.
I love it. You know, that's kind of me with keynote speaking. Gary, and this is not, I was always redeemed remedial, and I was held in from recess because I could not retain information. So a keynote speaker should be the last thing that I should be doing. But I'm like, you know what? That's a label somebody else put on me. I have to work a little harder sometimes, but I feel that I have a message inside me, and that's what God wants me to do. So I don't want that music to die inside me. So I just do it anyways. And sometimes it can be a little more struggle. I loved in this interview, you talked about, which you might do this in several interviews, but this particular one was you didn't know how to read, or you didn't know how to write.
I didn't know how to read or write.
Yeah, and I love that. And let me tell you why I love that and it resonated with me is because I got invited by some remarkable women this last month to put in a chapter in a book. And my spelling is atrocious, but I have the heart and I want to share. So that lovely assistant that you saw there, she helped me do my grammar part of it. So we've turned it into the editor. So you just can't ever let anybody stop you from what you know is your truth to do, right?
Right. Well, we only speak from the heart because we can't remember.
But what's so funny is I would have never thought that. We do this judgment thing, whether people say they don't or not. We tend to do it. We try not to. But from just judging a book by its cover, I was like, well, I bet Gary and Angie, gosh, they're just little smart whips and they just know all this stuff. And when I heard that last night, I was like, oh my goodness. I love that. I love that you're doing big things and not believing that past.
Yeah, it took 6 years living in my van, traveling around the country to delete it. And some of it still lives there, because it's deep in the core. So, but I never let that stop me. Never. Sure. I do not let that stop me. So, yeah, during that 6 years, I wrote my first book, and it was published in 2005. And so we're setting it up now on Kindle. I'm in a mastermind group now, so we're setting that up on Kindle, and I'm adding a chapter. And through the experience, I've realized some things that really put a final note on the book. And it's called Prisoners of Our Own Beliefs, and how we get where we were in life or are in life and how to walk through that. It's really not about me. It's about each individual person's life. When they read it, they get to see where they got stuck. And then there's a formula at the end to eliminate that from your life.
Oh, cool. When is that coming out?
That book is out. The new one for Kindle, we have it done. It's being done in Spanish. I have to finalize the last chapter and put the stuff in it for it to go to Kindle. So it's really close. This mastermind group has been amazing for me.
That's great. I love that.
So, and we're going to start doing seminars too.
Oh, good. Good. I have to definitely keep in touch for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome.
Yeah.
So Angie, you want to? Yep, go ahead.
One other thing with Gary is that he did not tell you is that he was pronounced dead at one point. He was in a very bad accident.
I did. You said that in the interview.
Did you see that?
Yeah, you did. Yeah. So you've had a colorful life, for sure. Sounds like both of you guys have.
All of us have.
Yeah.
We all have a story, right?
That's part of what creates the passion and the power to move forward and to help others. That's what I feel anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Well, sounds.
I love your energy, Don. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I love y'all's as well. You're dynamic together. But yeah.
I don't remember how we got connected, Don, but
Anthony Trucks for some way, somehow.
Yes, because he came and spoke and he had your shirt on, and I'm like, I need that shirt. And he's like, well, it's not really mine, but this is who you can contact. So that's how. Okay,
awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anyways,
it's amazing how life unfolds for us.
I was thinking about that last night. I was wondering how we got lined up, and I just was being thankful and being grateful for the opportunity to just go. It's cool how our paths crossed and just how everything's meant to happen. So I was excited to actually get to meet you because I'm just like, we were meant to meet.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Again, this is Dawn Thompson, and we were connected through Anthony Trucks because of her shirt. because of her You're Enough that she's wearing right now, as you can see. And I was like, I need that shirt. Who do I get this from? So Anthony hooked me up with Dawn, and I found out that Dawn has a very interesting life story of where she came from and what got her to doing these shirts and doing what she's doing in life. So we wanted to know all about her. And so here she is today. So thanks, Dawn.
Hello. Thank you guys for having me. It's an honor. I'm just so excited to share this space, and I just ask that whatever is supposed to come out of my mouth comes out of my mouth, and if it helps one person, then it was worth us doing this video, right?
Absolutely.
But really kind of where I got my start was as early as I can remember, I didn't know my worth. My parents at the age of, I can kind of remember at the age of 5, my mom and dad getting a divorce. My mom standing me on the back of her bumper of the car, and she said, if you see those apartments over there, that's where we're moving, and your dad's not coming. And life as I knew it, I was like, oh my gosh, my life is over. And, is it something I did? I think, with divorce, a lot of times we tend to think that as kids, what did I do? And so we moved into a 1-bedroom apartment, and my mother started dating, and she met a man who was, he had some nice qualities, but he was an alcoholic, and they partied quite a bit and had fun. And I just remember, really missing my dad. He moved out of town, and I started becoming sad and lonely. I remember, as early as I can remember back, it was just this sad and lonely, this void that I had. And that's when I started an unhealthy relationship with food. I thought that food was going to be this new friend, and it become just a really unhealthy relationship with it. And I remember I used to get in trouble because I would eat too much. And so I would sneak food, and I would hide it. I remember even in the pantry, there would be, those little cereal boxes. Do you remember those little boxes? Mm-hmm. We would get a new case of them, and I remember hiding them and strategically moving them so you couldn't tell that I'd eaten 2 or 3 of them. So I just remember always, like I said, that hiding and sneaking food. And my stepdad would get on to me, and he would tell me that I was worthless and that I would never amount to anything in life. And, it's one of those, when you hear that as a kid, you start to hear it enough, and then you start to tell yourself that. And if you tell yourself that long enough, then you start to believe it, and then you become it. And so I, through my school years, I was known kind of as that chubby kid, that chubby remedial kid. I was in remedial, where I didn't retain information very well. And so at recess, I would be held in because I didn't, I needed to learn to read. I remember at one point they said, hey, we're going to give you these books to read. And this one particular book, I want you to read it back to us, what it was about. And I read the whole thing. And they said, what was it about? I said, a duck. They're like, what did the duck do? And I was like, I don't know. It was just a duck. And so I remember feeling that shame of why can't I get this? And kids knew that I was held in because I wasn't there at recess, and they're like, oh, she's the stupid one. She's the one, she's retarded. She doesn't know what she's doing. She's in remedial. She can't read, and she's fat. And so, I was not getting positive reinforcement at home, nor was I getting it at school. And I will promise you what was going on in my head was nowhere near any positive reinforcement, because I would tell myself that I were those things that other people were telling me. So I carried that around for so long, that I just didn't know that I was worth anything. And I remember, as far as my dad, when my dad moved back to town, we lived in a neighborhood where my dad would have to drive by our house. We lived on the main street. He would have to drive by our house to get to his house with his new wife and 3 children. And I knew about what time he would come, be coming down the street. And I would just watch and wait for him. And as soon as he turned that main street, I would run out and I would flail my arms just to get his attention. And he would just look straight on and drive. Man. And him and my mom were always arguing over this $50 a month child support. I'm not going to date my age, but $50 back then was a lot. And I remember my mother saying, isn't she worth $50 to you? And with all that stacked on top of each other, I thought, if my own dad can't love me, my own parent, then who could love me? And that I wasn't lovable. And I just, it's one of those where, like I said, I would carry that around. And as I grew more into my high school years, I started not being very nice to my body. And I tried things. I tried drugs. I tried sleeping around out of marriage. What I didn't realize that everybody, because I did that for attention. And what I didn't realize that every person that I slept with just kind of took a piece of my soul, if you will. It's like I had that tie, and I didn't realize, that at that early age, but I was just so desperate for someone to love me. Love me, love me, love me. And I would just look for it anywhere. Love me, love me, love me. Drugs, okay, sounds good. And I end up, after high school, I worked 3 jobs. I moved out, and I ended up working 3 jobs. And at one of my jobs, I met the most amazing man. We were only in our early 20s, and we married. He was tall, dark, and handsome, and he was, going to school to be a CPA. He was a really good man. So what do you think I did?
Push him away.
I pushed him away. I was like, there's no way that I deserve to be in a good relationship. Nor did I know how to be in a good relationship. Mm-hmm. And so I just created all these problems that weren't even there. And just like I said, not realizing that I deserved it. But one really great thing that came out of that marriage is he pushed me into doing my career, starting a career that I loved. My mom had tried to talk me into going just to get a job at like Southwestern Bell or somewhere like that, the electric company, because she's like, those jobs will never go away. Ha ha. But he encouraged me to do what I really wanted, which what I loved was serving others. And so I started to do acrylic nails back in the day. And that was for no more amount of school than I had to go to. I made really good money. I made $55 an hour. So that was back then. That was great money.
That's good money today.
It was great money. And I ended up opening my own little 15 by 15 room nail tech little operation that I had going. And I know you'll appreciate this, Angie. It was only a 15 by 15 room, but I had 2 other nail techs. So I was making them have my rent. So that was a really good thing that came out of that marriage. But like I said, I sabotaged that and continued to work on my business. And with that, I ended up meeting another man that was really, had a great heart. He was an amazing heart. We're still really good friends today. And we ended up having kids, but there was one small little problem was he was an alcoholic. Because what I had done is repeated my mother's pattern. And I don't want to bash him because he is an amazing man. But, we both, I'm going to use the word sick. Sick people sought out sick people. That was kind of where we were at. We both were struggling in our sickness. And we married and ended up having 1 child at that time. And although I have always battled weight, I had never gotten as big as I did after my first child, which I ballooned up to 300 pounds. And I'm going to use the word miserable. Because when I think back at that time, I was happy and I knew I was blessed, but I was miserable because I was so heavy and so unhealthy. And I ended up having gastric bypass. I was like, I tried so many diets and I had gastric bypass. And then right after that was very blessed to go away to a place called Shades of Hope. I didn't realize at the time it was more like a rehab, if you will. But what they do, it's based around food, and they teach you how to get this right. Because I was doing this even after gastric, I was still trying to stretch myself back out because I had not fixed this part. Mm-hmm. And the what I really learned there, that I was codependent, so codependent that and so still searching for someone to love me, that when my husband was out drinking and not coming home, which is the way I grew up a lot, that I found somebody that paid attention to me, and then I began to have an affair. And that affair was heaven and hell because it was so fun to get all that fun attention. It still went against something that I believed in, but yet it was feeding me that what I thought I needed. And before you know it, I had myself in a mess. And what I was doing was chasing crumbs from both of them. And that's what I learned at Shades of Hope was I was chasing crumbs. And I will kind of share with you the story. I don't share this a lot because in the past I had a lot of shame around it. Was this place is amazing. As a matter of fact, Oprah did some filming with this place called Shades of Hope. And it was what they did is they took me and they used two people and they mocked up this situation where they used Kleenex and they tore them up like little bitty crumbs. And each person represented, one was my husband and one was the man that I had the affair with. And they had them walk away from me with these handful of crumbs. And what I did is I would almost do anything to go get those crumbs out of their hand. And I, for a minute, was like, this is crazy. This is not even a real situation. But I wanted those crumbs in their hand. I had to have those crumbs. And when it was all over, they threw the crumbs in the trash can. And later that evening, there was nothing else in the trash can except for those crumbs. I pulled them out. And that night, we had a bonfire. What we were to do with that bonfire was throw away anything holding us back. And I took my crumbs out of my pocket and said, I stood up and I said, I'm going to throw these crumbs away. The directors looked at each other like, oh my gosh, did we not throw those away today? What is she? But it really was, maybe I needed to do that, to literally see them burn and to go, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm done chasing. I don't want to chase these crumbs. Needless to say, I came back home and I no longer had the affair. My husband and I divorced shortly. We tried to work it out, and I think just too much had happened, and we decided we were better friends. But we did have 2 children out of that marriage, and we're still today he's one of my best friends. I adore him, and he adores me, and we raise these kids. We co-parent as well as we can. But I did, as far as crumbs, Tenny, the lady at Shades of Hope, explained to me, she said, if you don't change, your children have the greater chance to become a crumb chaser, especially your daughter. And that to me, sometimes we won't do for ourselves, we'll definitely do for others. And that's when I said this pattern is having to stop. And I would love to tell you that, boy, it stopped right there and everything was great. Except, Gary, we were you gotta redo it a couple of times before you actually get it. Before you actually there's a quote out there, something like that, and I can't quote it, but it is something is sometimes you got to battle that more than once. And although I was working towards it, I was like an onion being peeled back. I still continued to work my business, but got out there in the dating world and dated some interesting folks. I would always ask myself the question, would I leave my children with you if I had to run to the convenience store? Most of them were no. But I did actually end up meeting a gentleman who, he was pretty cool. He did the things I wanted to do. And I felt that love I had not felt in a while. And he needed some work done too, as well as I was still growing. And I let that pain of when we broke up, I was like, this is finally it. I am done. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. Just had it. And that was when I really started getting into the self-help world and said, what can I do? And I prayed. I was like, God, please show me how to start realizing my worth. That I know you have a different plan for me, and it can't be chasing my tail around like this, because I was exhausted. I just needed to learn how to have the self-esteem, the self-worth, the self-love that I had craved. And I knew I needed to raise my standards. That was one of the things that I was having some type of identity issue going on, that maybe I trapped myself into believing that I was fat and worthless and that I was not deserving of a good relationship. I don't know if y'all ever felt that way, where you get trapped into something.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you realize that biggest enemy is in your head. I was my biggest enemy that whole time, and that I had played that record so long. It was like elevator music in an elevator. I didn't even realize it was playing, that it had played for so long. back there just telling me.
That's one thing that everybody I think struggles with to a point, because we're never taught any of that. They don't teach us that in school. And if we don't come from a good family where that is taught, where are we going to learn it? And so people go around and they struggle and they don't know how to do it. And they continue to struggle with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The people that taught us were in the same boat. That's how we learned. Right. That's why once you change, your children could see a whole different scenario unfold before them, and they have whole different values and ideas and how to move forward in life. And that's part of what we do. I mean, look at the health food industry. Oh, there we go. I lost your picture there for a second. So there's no manual that we can have. We only go by our circle of influence, and our circle of influence can be very devastating.
Isn't that the truth?
Yes.
It's so true. And I had to learn that I had a counselor one time tell me, she's like, you've got to change your friends. You can't, if you don't want to do drugs, you can't go have dinner with drug dealers, or if you want to lose weight, you can't go, sometimes it's not that you can't hang out with your friends that are overweight, but you're going to have to change your habits. Y'all can't go to Red Lobster and, all these restaurants that you want to go to and get that comfort, change it up, go for a walk or something. Mm-hmm. So you're very right. What do they always say? Your circle of 5?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's true. Show us your friends and we'll show you what, kind of what's going on with you.
Right. The life you live, how much money you make, you'll be in the middle of that somewhere.
Yeah. But it's true. We just have to know our worth and scratch our record. As I told you, that record that had played, mm-hmm. When I would see someone thin, what I would say, and that's the record I'm telling you, I would look at them and be so happy for them and go, God, they look great, but you don't get to be that. And that was that deep, deep, way back there in the subconscious mm-hmm. going, you don't get to be her. So voila, I mean, hello. But that was the thing. As one of y'all said a while ago, it almost as we don't know what we don't know. Nobody's ever taught us.
Right.
I think it was you that said that, Angie. Mm-hmm. And it just had to become the time. And a lot of people don't want to do the work because it's hard.
Right.
True.
And, and I always say, you hear people say this all the time, and I love to say it to myself, you're going to have to choose your hard. Because it's hard to be where I was, and it's hard to work on myself. But I always say, like, the very best project you'll ever do is work on yourself. Mm-hmm. Why not do that hard? Because what we generally find out is it truly isn't as hard to work on ourselves as it is to stay put.
True.
But change is the hardest, or what most people think is the hardest, because let's just stay with the norm. We don't have to do anything different. It's what we know.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing that we deal with people in changing their lifestyle and wanting to get better, who are so sick, changing what they eat. And it's like, oh, but that again, it's work. Not only is it a mental thing, but it's the physical, but that's what I want. And you're going to take it away from me? Well, again, like you said, Don, you got to choose what you want. Stay sick or make a change.
Yeah. It's so true. And, I had to, some of the ways that I started knowing that I, to get out of my situation and to, divorce that story and marry the truth on that is I just realized that I was created in God's image. And I kind of I'd hear that all the time, but I'm like, I don't even know what that means. But when I really sat in it, I was like, whoa, like I'm taking a breath for a reason. And I have a purpose here in life. And, I had to realize all those things I was craving, as you heard me say earlier, love me, love me, love me, somebody love me. I had to learn to love myself, and everything that I ever craved was already in me.
Absolutely.
But I was so busy looking externally and no wonder I couldn't find it, but I was so busy looking out there that I was like, wow, it was just in me the whole time. A lot of times one of the reasons that I blow past whatever label somebody put on me that I was remedial and I shouldn't be a keynote speaker is because I'm like, man, if I go share my past, I hope to gosh it won't become some young girl's future or young man's future, that if I could say one thing that maybe they could go, well, her, ooh, yeah, you know, and just start realizing that everything in that you're looking for is in you now. And I love that everything that we're searching for is in us now. We just have to go in there and tap into it and learn how to change our story. You know, one thing that I do people ask me all the time, if you ever hear me speak in a keynote, you'll see me. I always add this in there because it has been so helpful to me, and it's called mirror time. And on my mirror, I have in pink lipstick at the very top, I love you because you're enough. And I always tend to do mirror time when I put my mascara on. So I kind of call it mascara and mirror time. And it reminds me, because it takes a while to get that mascara on, and it reminds me every time I'm conditioned to stop and look at myself deep into my soul and simply just go, I love you. There's not another person created like you.
That's right.
And to go, you know what? I trust you and I forgive you because you're enough. And even though, you know, when I first started that, guys, I didn't believe it. Like, I felt stupid. And I thought, if anybody, I kind of felt like I had a hidden camera. If anybody could see what I'm doing here, they would be like, she's mental. And I felt silly, but now I do it on a stage full of a ton of people. And I'm as real when I do it on stage as I am at home, because it's like I command myself when I look in that mirror to just go, this is about you, sister. And it's about, who cares what anybody else thinks. This is about getting right with your heart and your soul. And when I say it, even to this day, just saying it to you guys, I get like a feeling in my tummy that makes me feel good. You know, and it just, you can't say things like that to yourself and not let it affect your subconscious somehow. You know, and the thing I love doing with mirror time, I love taking my little girls to mirror time. I have two little girls. I have a son and two little girls. My little girls love mirror time, and this is what I do when I take them to it. And if you have any child that you know of, your child, grandchild, any child you know of, I encourage this because it is so helpful, and I can't imagine what this would have been like for us when we were kids, is to take them to the mirror and just simply say, there's not another one like you. You're you. And to just explain their worth, not to use words like, look how pretty you are and look how beautiful, nothing like that, because we know looks fade, but to just let them know that their soul is amazing and that there was only one of them created. The smile that my children get on their face is just, it's priceless. So I love that, and always encourage people to do mirror time with themselves and for anyone, and even gentlemen. You know, gentlemen sometimes are like, that's ridiculous, I'm not doing that. But I've had some leaders in the industry say, hey, okay, so I tried your mirror stuff.
Yeah. So remember that next time you put your mascara on, Gary.
Yes. Yeah, Gary. Next time you do mascara.
Take your time and remember. But it's awesome.
But it is true. And it's so simple, you know. We try to make it so hard, but it's about self-love. You know, if you'll equal, you know, self-love, and, you know, self-worth, self-care is self-worth.
Absolutely.
You know, you get a little self-care in, you can get some self-worth in that. You know, slow down to speed up. You hear things like that, and I always say, you know, that's one thing that I trademarked was fly, and it's faithfully love yourself, because you've got to do that. If you know, nobody else can love you the way that you need to be loved if you're not loving yourself first.
Absolutely. That's such a hard thing for in our work with people. For them to even think about saying they love themselves is such a challenge. Like they can't do it.
Yeah.
And it takes a while to get them through that.
That's what I was saying about the mirror time. What's funny is I did a speech the last week, and I was at Target 2 days ago, and I ran into the husband and wife that were there. And the husband was just like smiling at me because she didn't see me. And when she did, she came and she hugged me, and she's like, oh my gosh, I've been doing that thing you had me looking in the mirror, whatever you call that. I've been doing it. And I didn't like it at first, but I really am starting to enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely. And so, yeah, you're right, Gary. You know, it's hard. I like to encourage people to do a love journal. And in that love journal is just things you love. And what's so funny is so many times when I say make a list of all the things that you love, it's crazy how many times they're not on their lone list.
It's easy to criticize yourself but not love yourself.
Yeah.
Because of the world we're brought up in and our influence in school. I always used to struggle because I wanted to fit in. I realized after I graduated from high school, by the way, not being able to read or write. So
wow.
Yeah,
I realized
that's cool.
So
crazy.
So I realized.
You got to hear that story too, Don.
Yeah, a few years later, it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me because I didn't get indoctrinated into that system. And once I went on that journey in my van for 6 years, that's when that came to me, that I empowered myself and I knew I was okay. I wasn't stupid. I wasn't an idiot. All the things that I've been taught about myself, even by the teachers, that I was an artist and a good communicator and that I could help people. And that's actually what we're supposed to be doing in the world, is helping people by helping ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I can't wait to hear more about you guys because you guys are so awesome and interesting. I love it. And it sounds like you've got it. You've definitely figured out a lot. And I know we're still always learning and growing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, always doing that. As far as the loving, another thing that I had to do is I had to forgive. And, and that's a big one that a lot of people are. I'm not going to, you'll see they'll set in my speech like this. I'm not forgiving anyone. You don't know what these people did to me. And although I don't know everybody's story and I'm not playing light that you haven't been hurt before. But what I'm saying is when you're carrying that pain, it will tend to affect you. And so, I always say forgive yourself and others. And I know that sounds really easy to do and it takes some time to do that, but I had a girl who worked for me. Anybody that knows, if you work for me in my spa and salon, you're going to get, if we're teaching other people to be on the best version of yourself, then you got to be it too. So sometimes they think really long and hard before they come back and talk to me because they're like, oh my. But I remember I had a girl who worked for me and she's like, I didn't like my other boss. And she's like, and I'm really mad at her and I don't like her. And I was like, oh, wow. So I had her do a forgiveness letter. And she sat down and she wrote it. And she was angry. She goes, here's your letter. And I said, that letter's not for me. And I said, but let's rewrite it and smile. And she goes, so she did. And she went home that night. She told her husband, she's like, my boss had me do this letter. And he's like, your boss is nuts. She's crazy. Like, who are you working for? And when she brought the letter back the next day and I said, we're going to mail it. And what this person says back to you is none of your business because you're going to bless and release this. Mm-hmm. Well, it probably took weeks later. She came back to me and she was like, oh my gosh, you are so awesome. She wrote me back and we've buried the hatchet. We're getting along and it feels so good to let that go. And she told her husband, he's like, oh, your boss is smart. But we do that. I think we carry, we want to just carry this anger and this resentment. And I like to say blame. I for so long blamed my parents because I was like, it's your fault that I did drugs and it's your fault that I gained 300 pounds and married an alcoholic. And what I had to do is go, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's quit blaming because that, you hear that one finger pointing at them and three pointing back at you.
Right.
And I had to say, what if I changed the story that my parents did the best they could? Mm-hmm. And what if I blamed them for the good as opposed to the bad? And because of them and what they, let's say I felt lack of love and because I was told I was worthless and all those things, kind of as you were saying, Gary, that I said, those happened for me and not to me. And because I didn't hear I was loved much growing up, that now I feel my heart is huge. I have all this love to give. And because of all those things in the past, look at what it's brought me to now, that I'm here talking to you guys, that I do get to be a keynote speaker that gets to spread love and an author and all the cool things that are happening because I choose to go, I'm going to blame them for the good. That all that struggle and all that pain was really becoming my strength. So it was changing my story to go, hey, Mom, I do blame you. I blame you because I'm pretty friggin' amazing these days.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that forgiveness and blame, because I just refuse to carry the hurt anymore. And I just realized sometimes hurt people.
Absolutely.
And yeah, my parents did the best they could. And I love them for it. I unfortunately didn't get to really make amends with my dad or my stepdad before they passed away. But, I've done that in my heart. And I decided I wouldn't do that with my mother. And I like I said, I feel like when you carry that, it affects our health so much. I know you guys are really in that health part. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, but it's always good to just hear that gentle reminder to go, oh yeah, when I carry that, my health is definitely affected.
Sure. When you look at water has memory, right? That's kind of what I'm writing about now. Water has memory. So, and it's vibration, and we're 70% water. So all the stuff we carry with us is living memory-wise in our body.
Yeah.
And when we change our story, we change the energetic flow of that water in our body, and it becomes more and more in tune with who we're supposed to be instead of who we were at that time, which is a very destructive speaking person. Words of vibration, thoughts of vibration, and that water is absorbing that in our body. So we have to make sure that we speak in ways that water will actually produce positive vibrations.
Yeah, that is so true. Give that troubled past a different meaning, right?
Absolutely. I think that water, because of its memory, that is the consciousness of the universe and us. And it can be corrupted or it can be purified. And we are the master of that in our own body.
I love that. I was in Morocco Island in September. We were there for an event for a couple of weeks, and I was blessed to get to meet a lady. She is definitely into quantum. She's into quantum physics for sure. Let me tell you, she was a smart lady, and she had her water bottle. Yep. And she had all these pieces of masking tape running down her water bottle with all these positive affirmations on it. And I knew, being in the self-help industry, I knew what that was about. But she talked exactly what you're talking about, Gary. She's like, I'm going to send my water the positive vibes because I'm ingesting that water. So I'll be curious to read your whatever study you have going on around that. That's awesome.
It's because it's about changing paradigms. I mean, that's what we do, right? And we help people realize that they do have self-worth and that they're not what they were taught that they were, that we're infinite beings with infinite potential in an infinite universe full of abundance. And we hardly ever get that message.
Yeah, that's true. We tend to, sometimes, I know in the past, like I said, I let that not so great stuff dictate my life.
It can come back, as
we
all know.
We were talking about that before this video. We were talking about how that can happen very easily, and it's just a little shift that all of a sudden you can find yourself back into kind of getting into that valley, if you will.
Sure, and that's what the mirror time is about. When you're in front of that mirror and you're saying "I love you," that is going into the physical vibration of your body, and it is clarifying itself. It's clearing. It's eliminating and detoxing all that negative emotion out of your body. That's what water does, right? It flows.
Yeah.
So,
with what's coming to mind is when you were talking about going, learning stuff over and over, is when I see something trying to creep up, I like to ask myself, what is this problem trying to teach me? Getting quiet and just setting in my heart and going, what am I need to know and getting curious about myself and realizing that, yes, I have flaws, but I'm still awesome. I like to say it's flawsome. We're flawsome.
Yeah.
Flaws, but awesome. We're flawsome.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And just really setting in that for a while and trying to see what's going on. For me, you heard me say mine for 40 years has been food. I got on, and I know you guys with the health, you probably could teach me a thing or two in this. I was probably the healthiest I had been this October.
Oh,
I felt
awesome.
amazing. Yes, I felt so good. I'd just come off a cleanse. It was great. And I had some dental surgery that I'd been putting off back here, and had to have some new bones and different things. And I got put on steroids.
Oh.
I've never had that. I've never been on a lot of medicine. And I noticed myself puff up like a Stay Puft Marshmallow. I just have to say it like it is. So I started really having to catch that before I got too out of control, and just really setting, as I was saying, is what am I needing to learn here? What's going on? Instead of going, okay, you're starting to gain weight, you're fat, you're all those things that I could have said that I would say in the past, to go, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's get that love journal. Let's really figure out what are we needing to learn here, and not go there, because I could see where, when I'm doing my work, and bet this happens to you guys, when you're helping people, they expect you, because you are in a teaching role, that you're going to be perfect. Especially with me, with trademarking the word "you're enough," people are like, oh my gosh, she totally has it all figured out. She's a keynote speaker. She works with some really amazing people. And I'm like, no. Every day and every way, I'm still working on me, and will be till I die. Because as we said earlier, the best project we'll ever work on is ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you are, even now, trying to develop yourself to even clearer, more vibrant person, do you seek others to help you?
Yes. I do. I work. It's no secret. I work with Tony Robbins' son, Sean Stevenson. Not sure if you know who Sean Stevenson is. He's really he's amazing. Look up his work. He's a really great guy. I believe in that power of 5. If you want to be the best, you surround yourself with the best. And I'm not doing an infomercial for Tony Robbins. I really appreciate his work. I think he's really good at what he does. I have to believe this too. Not everybody's going to like you. Your vibe will attract your tribe. And I definitely have that vibration towards those 2 people that I mentioned you. I have other people that I do work with. My very first life coach that I ever had was that of Jack Canfield and his group. I think a lot of him too. I love anybody really trying to teach and trying, getting out there and just doing it. And that's I also believe in the masterminding. I think getting yourself in a great mastermind is a great thing to do. My car is, I don't listen to music as much anymore, although I love my music, but my car is like a rolling encyclopedia, if you will. This morning when I went for my walk, I was listening to, right now what I'm listening to is a love journal. A love money story with Kate. I shouldn't even say it. Now look at me. Hold on, I'll find it, because it is a great book. Okay. Sometimes we have these stories like we were talking about, and sometimes I've in the past I've had a money story. Kate Northrup, a money love story. It's a great book, and she uses a lot of self-love techniques in there as well.
So, for the people that are watching that need, it's important to have a mentor or a bunch of mentors, because you need somebody to lean on. I feel, do you feel that way? You need somebody to lean on when you're in trouble.
Absolutely. In my community, I live in a town about 100 and something thousand, and I've been a leader in our community, and I look to there are leaders in this community, and I look for them to either mastermind with or help me. Um, for a while, I made up the story that I had to get out of town to do that. And although there's some validity to that, there still are people that will surprise you. Sometimes I would look for leaders to be doing these amazing, huge things when it might be the clerk at the grocery store sometimes. That is an abundance of information that you need if you'll just be quiet and listen.
Absolutely. Listen with the intention of learning, not responding, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like right now, I'm in the past, I didn't have a problem with that, but right now I feel like I'm hogging up this whole interview with just talking. I'm even going, gosh, are you not tired of listening to your voice right now? But I'm having to realize we have a short amount of time to get anything I can out that could be useful for somebody else.
No, yeah, absolutely. I've actually, Angie and I have had people comment on it, and I'm like, when somebody's on a roll, don't stop them. Because you could interrupt the flow of something that could be so profound it could change that person's life.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's exactly what we want done.
Yeah.
We want this. So you're awesome. You're great giving us your life and your information. So I did want to ask you, so where did this put you as far as relationship, men-wise?
I've been in a relationship now for 5 years. I am with a man that I have the same core values as, which I think is very important. I used to just look, this is how I would meet a man in the past. Let's say I'd be at a bar. I would go, oh my gosh, he's so cute. Look at him. Oh gosh, isn't he cute? He's just, and we would start to talk, and I'm like, oh, you like me? I like you too. Let's go. Let's have a relationship. And the gentleman that I'm with now, we before we ever even kissed, we were friends for 5 years. And I that was so unusual for me because you heard me say I was very promiscuous in my past. It's not anything. I don't carry the shame that I used to carry around it because I realized it's what I needed to do at the time. I would sometimes like to have not done like that, but anyways, that was something that I didn't do in this relationship, and I've learned just a lot, and I think the biggest thing that's coming to mind is when you learn to love you and you're getting right with yourself. And I would even make a list of all the qualities that I was looking for someone. So when I saw them, met them, I recognized it. Sometimes we'll put more thought into going and buying a car than we will our soulmate or, our mate. And so that's what I had to recognize. Number one, what do you want? Love yourself. What do you want? What are you looking for? And really realizing how important core values are. Let's say, for instance, what I work with people on is, and I am not a relationship coach or expert by any stretch of the means. That is not where my expertise lies. But I work with young girls, and let's say they're like, well, I just wanted to be tall, dark, and handsome and make lots of money so I don't have to work. We work deeper, and I get on a deeper level with them. Let's say, do you want kids? And they don't, because that's going to be a problem later. Maybe you have a different belief system than they do. Not to say that it's always a deal breaker, but those are things to think about, and really be clear on what you're looking for. And so not everybody is going to show up on your doorstep and be perfect. But you have to ask yourself, what can I live with? Because we're all going to have problems. It's asking yourself, what can I live with? And how much communication can this person do with me? Because communication is key. I've never heard anybody say of any former relationship we broke up because we communicated too much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In that communication too, because you said, you started, which is what actually one of the things that changed your life is, you started to think about what you were looking for in a man.
Yeah.
Before, you didn't have that, and those relationships fell apart. So I think that's a really key point is, no matter what you're doing in life, you got to have a plan, kind of a guideline. It can be shifted, it can be changed, but I think that's probably one of the best things you did for yourself, the mirror, and trying to figure out what you're looking for and going after that.
Yeah, I do that. A lot of people know me as the outcome queen, and I would figure out ways to get what I wanted. I'd work my tail off to get them. I have a successful business, and I also have a nonprofit that I supply kids who can't afford their own clothes and personal hygiene items. I help them out, and I also, goodness, we just did a family the other day that the mom has cancer. We were able to go in and buy presents, and although that's all fun and good, but what I really learned from that is being able to share my past and help some of these kids who possibly were struggling, to go in and to mentor them. And that is, I love that part of doing that, is to really help share with them some of my past, as I was saying, so it doesn't become their future. So I'm blessed to get to work a lot with those kids. But to go back to where I started that, was the outcome girl. I love to get those outcomes and, like I said, make life happen and do all these real cool things. But where I've backed up as I've gotten older is to go, let's really make sure that we're happy. We've got a lot of joy going on over here, because I sometimes was like, and when I get that next big business going, and when I get that next, and I had to learn to go, hey, you're not going to be happy there. If you're not happy in this part, you're never going to be happy over here. And so really, that's more of my speeches is, yes, outcome, but learning to enjoy yourself during the process, to love yourself, to figure out where you're going with your plan, to set up for a good outcome. And so that's just really important to me, is really know your map, your life map. You're the author of this amazing life called a book. And how are you going to have yours read? Is it going to be a bestseller? When you get to the end of your life, are you going to leave some form of a legacy? Did you help someone? Did you, I bet we could go to somebody's hospital bed right now that's fighting for their life and ask them, do they wish they would have made more goals and planned and done? And I bet they're going to say, no, what I really wish I'd have done is taken more time and loved myself, been gentler with myself, loved on people more, picked up the phone and called people more to tell them I love them, to hang out with them. And I think that that's real important when planning and writing your book of life, is how can you leave a great legacy? How can you help even that one person? If as we said on the video, if we're helping one person your whole life, if you help change the course of one person's life, it'd be worth it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we all have work to be done on this earth, and as I said in the beginning, you've got a breath for a reason. And finding out, a lot of people tell me I don't know my purpose, and we'll sit down and work around it. But a lot of it, what we find out is just quit lying to yourself.
Yeah, one of the things, this is how I see a lot of people, and myself included. We feel like we're trapped because we don't know there's an option.
Yeah.
And you're the voice of option.
Yeah.
And
we keep, oh, go ahead.
Well, it's just that I feel that when we meet somebody like that, and first they'll listen. The writing on their walls is on the walls up here. The writing on the walls are really embedded tightly, and they're their actual belief system. So, I'm sure you've heard this. The mind is like a parachute; it only works when it's open.
Yeah.
And you can watch it flutter sometimes when you're talking to people, or watch it close and they drop right out of the conversation. So it's trying to find a way to help them see that they do have self-worth, and that they can change their lives. And that's
right.
But they can't do it without a shoulder to lean on and a voice that they can come back to now and then. When you're talking about riding around with tapes in your car or whatever, CDs or whatever you have, right? You're getting that constant information all the time. Because a lot of times I feel what happens is they talk to somebody and they get all positive, and the minute they turn around and go back, they're walking into the circle of influence that got them where they are.
Right. I call them negative Nancy's. I'll ask in my speeches a lot of times, I'm like, is there somebody that because I limit myself, and I'm like, what about, I said, how many in your life have somebody negative? And, I said, how many of you here are not raising your hand because your negative Nancy is with you? And, and that's so true that a lot of times people tell me, they're like, you don't realize I have somebody that's my immediate family member that is more negative. And I said, yes, I do, because I have someone in my family that I love very much, but they tend to be more in the life is happening to them, not for them. And here is how I shut that down. It took me years to learn this, but this is how I would sit here when I would talk to them and just go, oh, as soon as they started in on the phone. So how I learned to scratch their record is I go, what good's happening today? And they kind of look at me. And, you could tell if it's in person, they look at me, or if it's on the phone, they just stop. And it really will scratch their little record to let them know. And this person knows anytime I talk to them and I do that, they now kind of laugh. At first, it made them mad. Mm-hmm. And now they kind of laugh because they're like, she's just not going to let me off the hook. And I don't just preach to them or go on. And I don't, because that's not helpful. I just simply scratch their record and wait for them to tell me what good's going on. And then they'll usually go, well, I guess I woke up today.
Hey.
Yeah.
It's the simple things that make the biggest impact.
You're right, Gary. It is, you hit the nail on the head. It is so simple. Yet sometimes we make it so hard. Mm. And I get, yes, I get that change can be hard and stuff, but I tend to tell myself this. Yes, we were talking about harder, but what if we just said, you know what? I think it's going to be really easy to change this time. I think it's going to be light and free and easy. In order for me to get better, I believe in miracles, and life is going to be free, light, and easy. And if we tell ourselves that over and over, I wonder what could happen.
Mm-hmm. Exactly it. And I've just been telling my clients that recently, because of the ones that'll come back and they're like, oh, but that's going to be so hard, and that's going to take me forever. And it's like, well, if you want to say that, then yes. But if you want to change what you're saying and you want your body to follow what your brain's thinking, then you got to keep saying it and you got to keep believing it. Whether you truly believe it, as soon as you keep on that track of, okay, you're waking up every day and you're saying, I'm healed, I'm healthy, I'm great. You say it every day, say it every night. Your body is going to follow. And it's reminding them that. Yeah. Because we don't get that reminder. We don't get told that.
Yeah, that's what I was telling you about the mirror time. You might not believe it in the beginning, but you keep on, and then all of a sudden you're going to be like, dang, I love myself. One thing that I do, speaking of, morning rituals, that's so important. Those habits, rituals, those little things you're doing daily can stack up to something amazing. But before my feet hit the bed, I lay there when my alarm goes off. And I just all of a sudden, I go into 5-5-5 is what I call it. 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. And it's 5 minutes of celebration. And I celebrate anything that comes to mind. Whether it's I have water that is running, running water, I have breath, just all the things that just come flooding through my mind, I give the celebration. And then I give about 5 minutes of gratitude. Just thanking God for my whatever it is. I mean, it's random things that come to my thoughts. And then 5 minutes of how am I going to set my intention? A lot of times I get out of bed to do this one because I write it down, or I'll look in the mirror and do it. What intentions are you setting for the day? And I don't know who to give proper credit to. I know it was either Steve Jobs or what's the other one? The computer guy?
Bill Gates. Bill Gates.
Yeah. I believe it was one of them, and I need to look this up. But they said they do their life as they look in the mirror in the mornings. They set their intentions like it was the last day of their life. And if they don't like what they've set, boom, they reset them. Mm-hmm. And when I heard that, I was like, that's pretty cool. Because you've got to set some great intentions for your day. It's kind of like we were talking earlier, is planning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what are you setting out there? So it's so you know, you can do 15 15 15. I do 5 5 5, and on the weekends I'll do longer if I have, you know, the time, but at least I get that out and I just have a direction. You know, when we were talking earlier about relationships, sometimes I tell people it's like, get you a target that you're going for, because you don't want to pull back the bow and arrow and just shoot towards anything, just shoot up in the air and you don't have the target you're going for. Same for that, for our intentions for the day.
Absolutely.
Have some direction.
Have some direction.
Yeah.
That's very, it's so easy when you say it, and, you know, I'll tell my clients too, and it's like, do we do it? A lot of times it's like, so many people, it's so easy. It takes you 5 minutes, but do we do it? No. It's changing that habit.
It's that ritual, you know, of taking care of you before you take care of anything else. It's crazy that I had a spa and salon and I was generally the last person to get a massage, because in my mind I didn't deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't deserve to go in there and get relaxed, because I was a workhorse. I wanted to work. Ooh, if I, you know, just go relax this other person. And it has been, because I'm still learning every day. Take care of you before you take care of anybody else. We've heard that oxygen mask thing 1,000 times, but there's so much importance to that.
Mm-hmm.
I have to remind myself to slow down, to speed up, and not have, as soon as that wants to start playing, you don't have time to take off and get this massage or just go have lunch with someone. I have to stop that, because it's kind of like I said, when we're on our hospital bed, I don't want to look back and go, well, gosh, I never really had time for my friends, because I was so busy trying to make that almighty dollar or do whatever it is that I was doing.
Yeah, I was taught the rocking chair technique. When you're 80 years old and you're sitting in the rocking chair, something happens to me right now. When I'm 80 years old sitting in a rocking chair and I'm rocking, is this really going to matter in my life? Is it really going to shape me? Or is it something I should just let go of because it doesn't matter? Down the road, it isn't going to mean anything. I won't even remember it happened.
Yeah, I love that. Let it go, right?
Yeah.
And my little one. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I want to hear about your little one.
Oh, well, it was, you know, that little song, Let It Go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
From Frozen.
It's Frozen. She had that little recorder, and they were in there singing. Mm-hmm. And it's so cute to listen to. You know, kids are so innocent. And they're just at the top of their lungs, and they're just being silly and playing and letting it go. Just not a care in the world. And I think, gosh, if we would do that as adults, you know, love ourselves enough to be ourselves.
Yeah, I think that we get the play beat out of us as we get older. We forget to play. We never get down on the floor. When I see a dog or a cat, I'm on the floor with them.
Yeah.
And people go, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm playing with this dog or this cat or whatever. And they're like, that's crazy. No, you need to be down here doing it too, you know.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you about, goes back to the mirror. What do you say to people who say things like, well, that's an egotistical thing to love yourself?
Oh my goodness. That's a great question. It's just simply not. I mean, you've got to love yourself. I think there's a thing with an ego that you can definitely be in your significance. And like, did y'all see me? I look good, don't I? There's a difference in that. It's, you know, this is about just self-love and tenderness, and it's okay just to love you. It's not about, dang, I'm sucking the oxygen out of a room when I come in. And, you know, although I do tell people, be so good with you that when you walk in a room, you suck the oxygen out, but not in an egotistical way. You ever met somebody or you've been somewhere and they're from across the room and you see them and you want to know more about them. Like, you just have to just break your neck almost to get across the room to go talk to them. And they've said nothing. And it has nothing to do with the way they're dressed. It just simply, there's an air about them. Mm-hmm. And you walk up and you talk to them, and it's as if they have sucked the oxygen out of a room, not in any form or fashion of an egotistical way. But you know what it is, the key to them, 99.9% of the time? They're so good with them that they're just being. They're just being, and you tend to want, it's kind of like you were talking about that water level, and mm-hmm. It's like they're just throwing these vibes out there that is just awesome, because they've learned that secret of how to get good with them and how to have that self-love, and not in any form of fashion of an egotistical way. Mm. I know the ego that you're speaking of, and that's not what this is about. This is just about loving yourself, and there's nothing ego attached to that than just having good self-love and knowing your worth.
Absolutely.
Well, Don, you can be extremely proud to know that that is you, because that is exactly mm-hmm. what I wanted when I heard of you. It was like, I need to know this woman. And we were never even in the same city, state, whatever. It was online, and you just have that about you. So
well, that's you.
Really awesome.
That's a big compliment. That almost makes me want to cry, because that's how I feel that you have to live your life is, is just that giving. The secret of living is giving, and just giving your heart. And, Gary, this is for me and you, and whoever is listening out there that has struggled with reading and whatever. I saw you in on this interview last night, and you were reading out loud. The guy asked you to read out loud.
That was Mike Mezier.
And for me, when people would ask me to do that in school, I remember when the teacher would say she was going to call on me, I would just get a sheer panic, because, I was like, oh my goodness, I struggled in the past with that. And this is for us. And like I said, anybody else out there listening, when you come from your heart, no matter what anybody else says, nobody can put a label on you and that you can't do it. Because when you truly just are here and you want to just pour it out, give your heart and just pour it out to help others. I just don't know. I mean, yes, you can have people who will take advantage of you, but I just think you can't go wrong when you just are loving and giving. And I just think that's good stuff right there.
Awesome. Yes. What I see is no one can take anything from you if you give everything.
Yeah, I've never heard that. That's awesome.
So if you're a giver and you're not expecting anything in return, nobody can take anything from you.
Yeah, that's good. I love that, Gary.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's very ironic that all three of us have had learning issues, because mm-hmm. I could write and read, but like you, Don, I had a miserable time retaining, and I have for many, many years, and it just got repeatedly worse. And so I can relate to that, and the scariness of being called on, and the whole getting up in front, because it was like a nightmare.
Yeah.
Can relate completely. And I hated books, hated reading. Anybody ever brought up a book to me, it was like, don't come near me, because I ain't touching it. It was such a frustration. So it's really interesting that all three of us have had mm-hmm. that.
And yet here we are all sharing things to help people get past those issues.
Right.
It's our past that created who we are today.
Sure, it's a change in that story to know that it happened mm-hmm. for us, and that we I consider my blessed. One of the things that I say a lot is, God, I am so thrilled and thankful that you gave me the opportunity to have the struggles that I've had, because of being able to share my future and the things that you're allowing me to do. And something that comes back to me, and I don't know if I make this up in my head or whatever, but it is this little voice that says, trust me, you might not know how you're going to get there, but I'm going to take you to places you never thought possible.
Fantastic.
And I meditate on that a lot, and just trust the process. it's not been sometimes the easiest. And, I have trademarked the words "you're enough." And I thought that really I was just going to get out there and it was going to be keynote speaking and it was going to be just so easy and, look at all these wonderful things. And I've learned it's work. It's a lot of work. But I'm trusting the process. And I do believe that, I started the You're Enough movement. And what that kind of looks like is I have a trailer. I wanted a wall that people could ride on, but I had to be resourceful and go, okay, what do you have right now? You ask yourself, what can you do right now? And I had a trailer. It was very small. It has little bitty tiny wheels, but I had it and it was sitting there. So I painted it chalkboard, and I had the words written or done on it that says, "I'm enough because," and at the bottom it says, "Know your worth." And I parked it in one of our busiest intersections in our town, put some rainbow colored chalk out there so it'd show up. And before I knew it, the trailer was full. Awesome. With all kinds of stuff. You can go to the You're Enough movement and look on it. It was completely full. And the news wanted to do a story on it. And so we're busy working that out. And I wanted a new trailer. I needed a bigger trailer so we could actually take it on the road that had bigger tires. And just so happens my t-shirt guy that makes this, I was looking for a merchandise trailer. And he said, "I got a trailer sitting in the back that I'll make payment plans for you if you want it." So we painted that one chalkboard. And I shared that because I kind of came from nothing and built myself up. And so you can't ever make it the excuse of, well, I don't have the money for this or I can't do that. Don't let that be your excuse. Figure out a way. If God's got a good for you, nobody can get your good, and you can figure it out if you'll show up and do the work. It's not going to fall in your lap. But that's kind of where I'm at. My plan is to take this trailer as much as I can to speak cross country, if you will, to take it. Because what happens when you come up to sign that trailer, I've even had famous people sign it, and we all say the same thing. Even myself, when I went to sign it for the first time, I had to think about what I was going to write on that trailer. And once I wrote why I was enough, it's like I validated it to the world because, we put those out there on the social media and people can see them. And that's, it's interesting because it's kind of like we were saying it, you say it in your head. And so my plans are, I'm going to keep pumping out the You're Enough and the faithfully love yourself and just sharing my past so it hopefully doesn't become somebody's future. I don't know what all it looks like. I'm going to do as many things as I'm called to do out there. It's kind of cool when you start seeing people from all over the world wearing your shirts.
Yeah.
That was kind of just a pipe dream that is starting to happen. We have a merchandise line now that we have 15 different shirts. And so it's out there if you want it. It's just yours for the taking. You just, like I said, got to do the work.
Right. You have to be willing to put in the time and trust in the process.
Trust in the process.
If the universe is conspiring in your favor.
Exactly. It's kind of like without my shirt, who would have known, it's just showing up in life that my friend had the You're Enough shirt, Jason Goldberg. Jason Goldberg was on Anthony Truck's radio show, and Anthony said, I have to have that shirt. We sent one to Anthony. Anthony's on your show with the shirt on, so who knows? I just show up the very best that I can every day, reminding myself to be as raw as I can and love myself enough to be myself, that it's okay that we have setbacks because we're human, just to be the best you can be and keep working towards your purpose.
Absolutely.
Yes. In our next video, Gary and I are going to have
We're going to have your shirts on.
Yeah. I'm going to send you guys one. Absolutely.
Where are you speaking next?
In February, I am speaking to 200 students and they asked me to do a 2-hour speech, which you, by listening to me for an hour, you know I can talk. So we're going to do a breakout session. I'm actually going to take the trailer with me so those kids can sign it. They said, "Is there anything you can do to do a breakout session?" I was like, "I think this would be a really cool breakout session."
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, are there any that you have lined up ahead of schedule, like where you're speaking to a bunch of people anywhere versus the kids?
You know, we're in the middle of doing, we've got some big projects in the work. And so I'm kind of taking a break off of just, out there speaking right now. So I don't have a ton of that lined up. I'm opening 2 new businesses, and one is getting that merchandise line out and getting SKUs. If you know much about merchandise lines, there's a lot more to it than just creating some t-shirts and selling them. There's, it's like anything, there's a lot of work to that. So I'm really trying to concentrate on getting some of those type things off the ground.
Well, if you send me information on that, I will put it under the video.
Oh, awesome. Okay, thank you. Are you talking yeah, sure, I'll do that.
Yeah, whatever you're working on, the line, the t-shirts, the websites, whatever. Whatever you have. How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah.
If you can find me on Facebook. I'm under Dawn Thompson, speaker. You can find me through the You're Enough movement on Facebook, the You're Enough movement on Instagram. And I've never had anybody abuse this. And so I just trust that it all works out. I am pretty okay with giving my cell phone.
What?
Yeah, I've just never, just throwing that out there. I have never once, and I hope that that I'm not speaking too soon. I've never once had somebody that really is in trouble that needs that. And so I can do that as well.
Sure.
If you want me to send that information.
Whatever you're comfortable with and whatever you want, I'll put it down below.
Okay, sounds great.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Very good.
This has been fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dawn.
Like I said, I had no idea. I was like, I don't know what we'll say today, but I bet you that we'll say whatever will help someone. I hope that somebody's been able to get something out of this, and that we can lift somebody up today that might be struggling with something, and just let them know that they were created enough to do anything that they want to do in this lifetime, that you're enough to do whatever.
Absolutely. They are enough.
Yeah.
Belief and faith.
Absolutely.
All right, lady. Well, I'll be so excited to hear about your new business ventures here.
Yes.
So we'll have to have you back to talk when you.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
So. Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you guys so much.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, my God, that was amazing.
Yeah. All right.
Keep smiling and moving forward. All right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Love you guys.
Love you guys.
Bye,
See you.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.